Number one, don't fall for the natural product scope. And I used to fall for this, so I'm not going to judge you if you do. But essentially, there's just an overpriced way of doing the exact same thing. Shampoos are basically all detergents, and conditioners are basically all lipids. That's the main mechanism in terms of how they work. Even if you use, for example, egg yolks in your hair, like the Primal guys are telling you to, it's still lipids. That's why it works. It essentially mimics natural oils, because it's still topical lipids. The difference is the non-natural ways are actually more efficient and usually way cheaper. And when it comes to the scary sounding ingredients, usually they are in too low concentration to make a difference, and also they're only on your scalp for like 30 seconds or a minute, which is not enough to have a negative impact. So spending 5 times more money for a natural shampoo and conditioner, personally nowadays I don't think it makes any sense, because you're essentially still buying detergents and lipids, but the difference is you are paying way more for them. So I would buy a normal shampoo and conditioner, a shampoo that fits your hair type, because some of them are more harsh, so they're better if you have oily hair, and others are milder, they have less harsh ingredients, and so they're better for drier scalps. So get a shampoo for your scalp and hair type, but you don't have to spend 10 times more money for a natural one without ingredients that you cannot understand. So yeah, that's tip number 1. Tip number 2 has to do with conditioning. So for example, if you have medium hair or longer and you don't have problems with oily hair, then what ends up happening usually is that the scalp oils, they struggle to reach the entire hair follicles until the tips. So the longer your hair, for example, if you're a woman or if you're a self-maxer, then the more you need conditioning, because the natural oils, they have to go all the way from the scalp to the tips, which usually does not happen when you have hair that is so long. That's why you start to need conditioning protocols when you have longer hair. And with wavier and curlier hair, you also have the same problem. They're more prone to dryness because your scalp has a more difficult time making the natural oils reach the tips, basically. Because part of it is gravity, and when you have straight hair, it's easier for it to reach the tips. So if you have wavy hair or curly hair, or if you do a perm, you're probably going to need conditioner. So you can try, for example, a post-shampoo conditioner, which are the most common ones. But if you still have problems with dryness, which may be the case if you have hair that is long or wavy or curly, for example, then you can add a leave-in conditioner. So you would use a post-shampoo conditioner and also a leave-in conditioner if you have really bad problems with dryness, which may be the case if your hair is pretty long or if it's pretty wavy or curly. But if you have short straight hair, you may not need any of this because it's really easy for the natural oils to go from the scalp to the hair tips. And tip number 3, hide your phalos. Here's a good example of what I mean. So this guy, which is Adam Driver, he has a long face and also he has flared ears. To be honest, you should get his ears fixed, but what he does to compensate for this, I don't know if it's on purpose or not, but he has longer sides, which essentially makes his face look more balanced for someone that has a pretty long face. And also it hides the flared ears. So if this guy had a buzz cut or a very short hairstyle, it wouldn't look as good because he would have more phalos exposed and he wouldn't balance his facial proportions as much. So if your face is too long, like Adam Driver, then adding more volume on the sides doesn't mean that it has to be this long, but it will balance your face more. And the hair on top should not increase the length of the face. If you have receding temples, you can hide it with one of these hairstyles. If your forehead is too big, try to hide a little bit of it to try to balance the facial thirds. Short face, more volume on top, shorter sides. You get the point. And if you don't have any phalos, it doesn't matter. If you're like Brad Pitt, it doesn't matter. You're going to look good with long hair, buzz cut, anything. So if you do have one of these phalos, you should probably get a hairstyle that hides them. Although I will mention that the shorter your sides are, on average, the more angular your face looks. Of course, in this case, I think it's an exception because of how big his ears are. But on average, the shorter the sides, the more angular your face looks. It gives you the illusion that you have a more masculine face and more angular face. But in this case, I think it makes sense because he hides his phalos and he makes his face look more balanced. And by the way, if you want to find out how to become more attractive, then click the link in the pinned comment and join my school community.